Welcome to The Art She Manages, the podcast dedicated to remarkable women in arts and cultural management. I'm Alma, your host. My guest today, Alexandra Solea, has spent nearly 20 years shaping the global arts sector, from major productions to directing Rome Business School's Art and Culture Management program, and has devoted her career to preparing future leaders. In this episode, we explore the evolution of culture management education, the skills tomorrow's leaders need, and Alexandra's own journey of lifelong learning and leadership. Alexandra, good morning. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Alma, for the invitation. I'm so happy to be here in this morning with you.
Well, let's start. You've had such a rich career, from diplomacy to big productions to international projects. What made you take step into academia and directing an arts and culture management program at the Rome Business School?
Well, my transition has always been inspired by a desire to amplify impact and the passion I have for the cultural sector. So I can also say that after many years of hands-on experience and hard work in international events as well as international relations, I have realized that shaping future leaders, future cultural managers through education can actually multiply the reach of everything I have learned. And moreover, the academia has offered the space to reflect, to refine, and to share those insights with emerging professionals. And I have to say that this is a perspective that I have embraced from the very beginning, and I really enjoy.
And as a child, you also studied music, right?
Yes, I'm a musician. I have started by studying piano since I was 6 years old. I was born and my parents already bought piano in my house. So everything was prepared, but not in the sense of, just trying to force me towards a professional career in music, but just something that they really wanted me to have. And this is like, the education that my family focused on. They really wanted to have the best in terms of education, and I'm really grateful for these opportunities. So music was part of that, and then I have started to study piano and music in a formal structure in a school since I was 7 years old.
Well, that leads perfectly to my next question. Your education covers so many areas: music, management, leadership, entrepreneurship. You hold a PhD in history and analysis of musical cultures, and now you're on your way to complete a doctorate in leadership and curriculum. What keeps you motivated to keep learning at that level?
Well, I would say that there are two elements. Curiosity. So I have that type of curiosity since I was a child, and it still, keeps me wanting to discover new perspectives as well as new challenges in my specific career and opportunities. And besides that is the passion for the sector I have chosen. And I would say that the passion is the attribute that we can identify in every cultural professional, and speaking about musicians, in every musician. Without the passion, there is no justification to be in this sector. So I would say that these have been like the engines to motivate me, and of course also the fact that I have decided to do my second, it's a doctorate of education in the United States at a university that is called Westcliff University in the United States, focusing on leadership and curriculum. And somehow it relates quite a lot with what I have decided to do mainly during the last years, which is academia and teaching in the frame of academia and universities throughout Europe and an international level as well. So somehow I needed this to clarify certain perspectives, to understand better, and also to be sure that the next generation of cultural readers are going to receive education that is visionary and practical. So this is the purpose.
Well, beautifully put. And out of everything you have studied, what are the skills or habits you actually find yourself using most often as a leader now?
Yes, I would say there are many skills that are being required nowadays. So we are living in challenging times, and the cultural sector is quite challenging. But I would say that adaptability. So from this perspective, I also include flexibility, which means that always be ready to face and to adapt to new perspectives, to new situations, and to face the challenges, as well as empathy. And here, it helps us quite a lot to relate, to interact, to build connections, to structure networks.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that every guest of mine, so far has also outlined specifically these qualities, like empathy. I mean, I wouldn't be wrong to assume that like we women are a little bit more prone to show some empathy at a certain level, I would say, let's put it that way. And that it helps tremendously to build networks. It's interesting that you just confirm this idea.
Can also tell you something else. I have tried not to use and to consider empathy as an important element to be taken into consideration whenever we are, working and building professional relationships. But in the end, I have to tell you that if I find people that I don't resonate with, I don't like working. And this is not because I can afford to do this, or because I'm a musician, so I have my peculiarities. No, because it's absolutely about the way we interact, the way we resonate with people, the way we can structure our activities. And if from the very beginning we understand that something is not right and we don't succeed, communicate well, this is going to affect our work. So, maybe if we have this possibility from the very beginning to evaluate and to take a decision, we like to continue or we don't want to continue.
Well, that would be like an ideal situation, right? But I can imagine that sometimes you have this like inner voice and it keeps telling you, no, do not collaborate, like, do not do that, yeah? And then you ignore it and then you think, oh, I wish I had listened to that voice. But if you listen to that voice from the get go and call it quits when the connection doesn't feel right, I guess some people could argue that it's not a valid reason.
I have to tell you that I totally agree with you. I have studied, and my studies and my interests have focused in two different directions that in the end somehow they connect, which is music and cultural sector, where we use a lot of empathy and energy as well, intuition, absolutely normal. For the other people that are not part of our sector, they don't understand this. And then I also activate, and I'm pretty much interested. I also study business. So business administration and understanding, how we can implement our creative ideas, and the market functions, in a specific way. There are data that we cannot ignore. So there is the use of, analytical tools and the rational aspects of our thoughts, and a lot of analysis. So when I come with this intuition or this voice, inner voice telling me that no, you shouldn't start a project with of this group of people, or you shouldn't just continue in this direction, then of course I don't have a rational justification for that. So it sounds a little bit crazy, but every time I have tried to ignore the inner voice, I have found out later on that it was correct. So just to put it like this, I don't know. It's all up to maybe our specificities as musicians, as artists, as cultural professionals. I would put it like this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Cultural management is still a fairly young discipline if we compare it to other fields in the academic setting and academic framework. And from your perspective, how has it changed or evolved since you first entered the field?
Well, I would say that at the very beginning, it was a more a niche market, and the cultural managers, most of them that I have the possibility to encounter, were purely administrators. Nowadays, I see a focus towards business knowledge, entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity. So these are the skills that are required by successful cultural managers. So this has also influenced the change within this specific sector. Not to speak about the fact that, for example, a leitmotif, which is funding. So, finding and identifying financial resources for cultural projects is a big challenge, is the biggest challenge, as a matter of fact. So, nowadays, in order to be successful in this sense, I would say that these are the qualities that are mostly required. So, we see a difference in terms of, a generational gap between the previous cultural managers and the way the cultural institutions were being managed previously and what happens nowadays. Also adding, of course, the digital revolution that is bringing new problems and new aspects that must be addressed.
Yeah, it sounds very challenging. And speaking of your master program, yeah, the Rome Business School, and if someone listening is thinking about applying to that program, what kind of background or experience or previous skills and knowledge would help them to get the most out of it?
Okay, so I would say that first of all, having a background in the cultural sector is important. Even if we have also had some exceptions, but there were not so many with people that somehow, had maybe short work experience or an interest towards the cultural sector, but mostly a background in the cultural, either it is performing arts or visual arts. It's a plus, it's something important to be considered. Now, also the passion for what they are doing and the specific, cultural sector, they must also be curious. So always curious to discover new opportunities, and even creativity is an important task, an important skill as well. Because if you are highly creative, it allows you to come with new ideas that are going to be further develop, hopefully, because this is what we are doing there, learning how to transform their ideas, their dreams into reality. And of course, also the readiness to engage critically. But also humbleness, I would say, it's an important aspect. Because it's not about, I mean, it's about, learning more about the sector, understanding what are your abilities, your skills, what you need to perfect, what are your strengths and weaknesses, speaking about the SWOT analysis that we can also use when we speak about, ourselves. And then, of course, we also address both early career professionals, so let's say a junior level, but even the mid-career practitioners that are also welcome. Of course, there are different ways and that through which we can help them, and also different perspectives to which we can engage with their ideas and their needs. But I would say that these are the most important qualities that we are looking for in our potential candidates to the program.
Thank you very much for sharing this precious information. You mentioned that the cultural background, yeah, being in the performing arts or visual arts or media, it's a very important point. But as a performer myself, I just can't help but think that, yes, like we were performers, we know the theater system. I used to be a vocal coach, but back then, even if I think about my cohort, of students and fellow colleagues, we didn't even used to think about the business side of everything that we were doing. Like for us, the most important thing was just like to put ourselves out there, to be on the stage, to perform, to share the passion. So for me, when I first started this like transition into arts management, it was kind of a surprise that yes, it's very important because you have to understand in which framework you are actually working, but it's a completely another field, another job. I understand that it might be like a perfect plan B, for X performance and everything, but it's not as spontaneous, that transition is not that as natural as people think, it's like, oh my God, yeah, worst case scenario, I'm going to apply for some art management program. No, it's so challenging.
Absolutely. Well, I think it has developed very fast, the concept of cultural manager. What I can tell you is that in, let's say, or my generation, didn't get to study cultural management or management, marketing, business, entrepreneurship. This was a total different sector, so we were not interested in this. So we had to learn by doing quite a lot. It was
Mm-hmm.
hands experience, but little by little, I also felt the need, and this goes back to my studies. I felt the need to understand the theoretical framework, which is absolutely important because it helps you, structure and have that vision towards the sector that you want to work in. And being a cultural manager, being a manager is not at all easy. Something else that happens nowadays and probably is going to intensify hopefully during the following years is the inclusion of specific topics in the curriculum of music universities and conservatories. Such, for example, can be mandatory, such, for example, management, project management, or entrepreneurship, or even marketing and communication, because these are all skills needed by any artist in order to start a foundation of their career. So these are essential, I would say. It's not at all easy, and you need to have patience in order to, learn little by little and to be sure that you can just create different layers of your knowledge in this specific field. But in the same time, you have to choose. Either you want to be, an artist, you want to perform, or you want to be a manager, because it takes a lot of time as well as a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also on the opinion that it's better to learn at school, to have the possibility to, learn from case studies, to open a textbook, to understand a little bit more about what tools are needed in a specific sector, than to learn everything by doing. This is more empiric type of learning, which I don't agree with. Because I have had the possibility to test both.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to tell you that only when I have added the theoretical layer over what I already was able to do, my perspective and my vision has changed.
That's an extremely important point because you touched upon the fact that that would be a good decision to implement these managerial skills like communication, marketing, and like business administration into conservatorial and high, like music high schools, yeah, like, curriculum. Yes, and I think that would be actually a great idea. Like I remember during my studies at conservatory, we had legislation of performing arts, and it was an extremely important topic. And I absolutely underestimated it. Back then, I didn't have that mentality that, was like, wow, I'm just a performer, just let me play. And back then, I didn't even understand the importance of reading contracts. I know it sounds extremely silly, but I know that I'm not alone. And this is also like why I'm openly speaking about that, because I want to spread that awareness of, even if you are, like, let's say, only a performer, that knowledge is crucial. That knowledge will set you apart.
Yeah, so consider that this is something that I'm always saying because I have many students. Actually, I'm teaching in different universities. So I also see, a lot of students from different parts of the world. And I'm telling them, especially when I have artists, that they need at the beginning to lay the basis of their own career. No one is going to do that. So they need to understand, develop a strategy. Nobody asks to have a strategy, a long-term strategy, but short-term, middle-term is something important that they need to focus on. Besides that, they must manage very well the social media or even have someone supporting them in this sense, understanding their strengths as well as their weaknesses. And this is something that no one is teaching them, especially in the conservatories, especially in the art universities, art schools. But without having this, no artist manager, no agency is going to start looking for them. If they have unprofessional videos that have been uploaded on different channels, if you search something to find out more about them and you don't find a website, you don't find a social media that is properly managed, a page in this sense, and these are all elements that one has to consider. I was also working quite a lot with emerging artists, and I was, receiving from them links to listen to their recordings, and I have to tell you that many times I was struggling because I was not able to understand, is this a problem with the device, or maybe the hall where they did the recording, or is this a problem of their voice? So often we were also, actually all the time, we were focusing on organizing live auditions in order to see and to meet them in person. And then I would say that this is the very basic of that. So having this type of knowledge and understanding what they want to do. Also because, when you are studying arts and you are, the university is amazing. You have your own universe. You don't have a contact with what happens in the other side of the world, because it's like, your own bubble, or the bubble where it's yourself and your friends and your teachers and the beautiful school that you are enjoying very much, and the focus on, the pieces you are studying, and then you wake up when you finish, you graduate, that the world is totally different, and no one has taught you about that, and you need to understand first of all what you want to do with your life, and you have prepared very hard for so many years, but how are you going to use the skills, how are you going to use your potential, and not, of course, lose an opportunity. So you can have a lot of talent, but if you are not aware of, a strategy or what you want to do after you graduate, you might even change the sector and do something else. I have encountered also many situations in this sense with people that were not, satisfied, economically speaking, and they have decided to do something else, which is a pity, as a matter of fact, because, they have invested, and their parents as well, so much in their education, and then in the end they decide to do something else. But I would say that this is about, awareness and understanding the market and understanding themselves and what they want to do.
I totally agree with everything you have just said, and I thank you for sharing it as a reminder that market realities are as important to consider as artistic preparation. Back to the cultural management, we know that it's not an easy field to enter. Many young professionals find themselves in unpaid or very low paid internships, sometimes even at some very prestigious institutions. Do you see ways the sector or even academia could lower that entry barrier?
Yeah, well, I would say that first of all, academia and the industry should work to collaborate more on fair entry pathways. So thinking about, okay, we also need young professionals, emerging professionals that we can try to support, maybe even integrate in the structures. But paid internship is something important that must be considered. Unfortunately, I think the legislation is not so clear from this point of view. So there are companies covering the expenses and maybe even providing something extra, which in the end is work that they are developing. But it's all about if that internship is being done in an academic pathway, in an academic curriculum, then it cannot be paid. So it somehow enters in the academic development and also provides some credits that are needed by the students in order to graduate. But if this happens after they have graduated, and this is also something essentially important, because in order to work, you need to have experience. So it's like a vicious circle. So they say, okay, but you don't have enough experience. How do you want to work? And then you say, okay, what should I do? Well, you should do an internship. And usually these internships are not paid. So I would say that having this type of conversation with the industry leaders, with the different representatives of the marketplace, and also thinking about new opportunities, and maybe even deciding on some incentives the companies can receive if they decide to integrate, to maybe to do a small collaboration contract for young professionals. I would say that this is still at the level of thinking about becoming advocates and speaking and creating a network and raising awareness towards this specific topic, because nowadays, like a couple of years ago, 10 years ago, it was difficult to enter in the cultural management sector. At least I'm speaking about Italy, but also other European countries. Nowadays, the situation has slightly changed because there are many other perspectives somehow associated with this, but not entirely. So still, I see young professionals, even my students, just facing the same type of problems. So what I'm saying to them is, okay, internship is important. You have to choose an internship if that is going to add value to your curriculum, to your portfolio. But besides that, you also have many tools that you can use. For example, entrepreneurship. So if you understand how you can master these qualities, you can even create your own project, identify, the financial opportunities, build a concept that is going to work. And in this sense, I have had many students, creating business plans at the end of the program, and many have also implemented the business plans, creating, their own successful projects in the end. And this is a part of being a cultural professional, because if you decide to do this, it doesn't mean you are excluding the other opportunities, like working for a company in the private sector, cultural company, or working for a cultural institution in the public sector. So, just being open-minded and having this type of 360-degree perspective, which I'm always saying, as a matter of fact.
So you have to be creative in every single sense. Yeah. So like if you are not getting a paid internship or whatever internship that will suit one's perspectives and desires, then create that opportunity. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen. Well, this podcast is dedicated to women in the arts and cultural management sector. And, as a woman leading in a space that often been male dominated and historically speaking, what obstacles have you had to deal with, and how did you find your way through them?
Oh, very good question. That I can refer to the beginning as well as to, what the challenges one is facing nowadays, even if there are less respect to the beginning. First of all, I faced underestimation, and also the need to prove myself twice over. So this has been these two aspects have been, let's say, the biggest challenges at the very beginning. And then later on, I have also noticed that, for example, there are not so many women in senior level, executive level, in the cultural sector. Even if we speak about, it's also being called highly inclusive sector, no, for people, workers, professionals, very young, but also all different categories of age. And I would say that this is a big problem. It's something that exists in all the other sectors as well, but maybe in the cultural sector, according to my opinion, it shouldn't exist, because it should be based on the competencies. So being a woman, it doesn't mean that you know less about management, that you are not so strong when you have to take decisions. It doesn't mean that you are not well prepared. It just means that we need to speak about this, to address this problem. We also need to, speak with different professionals, try to understand what have been the challenges they have also faced throughout time. I have also encountered, and this was a great delight, women in executive positions. And talking to them, I also understood that they have faced many problems. Of course, after so many years, you don't, just want to go back and think so much about what happened, but there still is a lot to be said about. And maybe even organizing, I'd say, some conferences about on this topic would be interesting, just, to catch a little bit the vibes and to see what happens in different areas. But yeah, what is being required is to be strong. When you are a manager, you need to take decisions, you need to be responsible, you need to have a specific type of abilities, so you can work with people from different sectors, because this is what you do as a manager, especially in executive positions. And I also remember one professor of mine, and he was also an important executive manager for different cultural Italian institutions. He was also my professor at the conservatory in Rome, being a composer and later on working quite a lot in management. And he told me in relation to an incident that has happened when I was, working for another organization, culture organization, that maybe in the future we are going to meet you at the conversation table and not considering, bringing the coffee. which is something that, made me think about it and try to understand this. How does it seem? So it's also a saying in diplomacy, because if you are not on the table at the table, you are actually in the menu. So this is about us. We have to be strong. We have to tell and to be determined whenever there is an opportunity. We have to take it, not to consider that maybe we are not prepared enough. Maybe we should let someone else, because we are, I don't know, stereotypes and other problems coming from the side of the society, maybe even family, that have inoculated to us this perspective that we cannot, be decision makers. We cannot have this type of, positions as executives within the cultural sector. So there is still this problem, I have to admit. Even I also had a group of students doing a research a couple of years ago about women in executive positions within the classical music sector, and they developed this research to survey interviews in different European countries, Middle East, and Africa, I believe, northern part of Africa, as well as United States and South America, if I'm not mistaken. And this was the result, that unfortunately there is no balance between male and women in management, senior management positions within the classical music industry. So this is, I would say, looking at the numbers, this is a big problem that we are still facing. And I would say that speaking more about this, raising awareness, can be the beginning, the beginning to try to solve it.
Yes, I agree. And I'm curious if, even at your level with your career now, if you still encounter some situations when you feel like, okay, I still feel some like patronizing, condescending vibe.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I still do, and this not as before. Especially with people that don't know me, or yeah, they don't know my background so well, and they're just looking at me and say, oh, "Okay, you are a woman." I know, you just somehow you read, between the lines, and you feel, speaking about empathy and intuition. So it still happens. And then, I start speaking and I start explaining, and I see how slightly their perspective changes. But initially, when they see you, and this is, I would say, this is a problem, they see as a woman. Even yesterday, I have met someone, and the first look was, okay, maybe, she's going to bring us the coffee or something like this. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but I would say that this is the problem. And it also makes me very angry, because it means that I want to be, nice. I want to have a, fruitful conversation, a pleasant conversation. I don't want to show that I am tough. And this is what is being required somehow from the side of women in executive positions. When they have to meet someone, they have to prove that they are tough and they can handle the situation. And I don't agree with this, because I'm coming from the artistic sector. I love to have wonderful conversations, and if I'm nice, it doesn't mean that I'm not strong enough to be able to manage and to take decisions. But usually when because I already have a background nowadays, and the years are passing, and this is absolutely something that happens in our lives. I have accumulated couple of experiences, as well as studies. So if I'm supposed to put something on the table, I have something to put, and to speak about it. So this helps me now. But I'm also thinking about young professionals in their 20s, in their 30s, that deserve much more, respect and consideration and opportunities, being supported. And something else that I wanted to add: in my career, I have been supported by women, the women that I have had the honor to meet in academia or cultural institutions. They have supported me, I would say, quite a lot. in terms of, thinking about giving me projects, opportunities. And I have had the possibility to meet, for example, the director of the Santa Cecilia Conservatory in Rome. I was her assistant. I have learned so much from her. I have seen different situations and the way she managed those situations. And she also exposed me to, you know, projects, demanding projects. But as well as in the academia as well, I have had the coordinators of my projects, and they have been a tremendous support for myself. So I would say that we should, support ourselves among us women in the cultural sector, and not be in competition, because there are so many challenges that we need to face nowadays that competition is not required at this level. So I'm supporting whenever I have the possibility. I'm supporting my students, young cultural professionals that I have the possibility to meet, and I'm thinking about them whenever I see an opportunity, or whenever they need my piece of advice as a mentor, or they need something else from my side. I'm there to help them. So I would say that this is something important for women working in the cultural sector.
Amazing. And while you were speaking about the competition between women, I had to think about a conversation I'd had with a female colleague of mine when she shared her experience as a singer having a production led by a female stage director. In her opinion, that female stage director failed to convey authority, and she wished there had been a male director to lead them, because he would have done a better job. I still remember that I opposed to that comment and thought that if women themselves think that a leader could be only a man, because only male leaders have authority, it will be very difficult to break that cycle.
Yeah, I have also noticed this somehow. I was actually thinking about this aspect that when you have a man in somehow a decision making position, is seen or somehow just imposes respect. And I don't understand. I think this is a stereotype coming from the side of the society. So what do I need to be like a very strong, well-built man in order to inspire respect? I mean, this is not something that should happen. So this is still related to how a man is being seen and the role of men in society and the role of women. And then secondly, this way of fixing problems, I would say that this is still a management challenge, because if you are a manager, you need to fix problems. So you need to be a problem solver, and you need to deal with people. So working with people is the hardest part. So human resources and interacting with people is one of the most difficult aspects in the world overall. And we need to work, and especially in our sector, yeah, we have prima donnas, and we have sensitivity, we have emotions, we have passion. So even dealing with this, you need to be a little bit of a psychologist. How do you manage all these problems? How do you succeed to do your task, to accomplish your tasks, as well as to make things work in that specific, because in the end it's a team. It's a team of artists that need to perform, and they have a specific objective that they must consider. So I would say that, yeah, even this type of considerations I totally dislike. I have noticed that for men somehow it's easier, even in the academia world. I have noticed this. I mean, when you have a professor, somehow he's not as attacked as a woman might be in that specific situation. And this is something else quite interesting. This is psychology in the end, and stereotypes, and society, and education. And yeah, even now, one more time thinking about that potential conference, speaking about these issues and raising awareness, it's something important. But yes, there are moments when you have to show that you are very strong and that you are very determined. And from the very beginning, these are let's say, the lines, the borders that they cannot cross. And this happens in any sector, as a matter of fact. So showing exactly, the rules of the game is something absolutely important. And this is also strategy, management. So how do we do that? How do we show that we know what we want and we know what we are doing? And I would say that, yeah, related to what you have said, these are the aspects that we have to consider as well as women managers. And I was working, just a short parenthesis. I remember I was working in the production. There was a big show taking place in a large square with thousands of people in the public, and I was working in supporting. There was an international tour with an important singer, and I was working, there on the field until 2, 3 a.m. and then starting all over at 7, 8. So this is quite a tough work, the toughest. And I remember I was dealing with producers, I was dealing with artists, I was dealing with, members of the technical team. I was dealing with truck drivers. I was dealing with a lot of people. So how do you manage that? It's all up to your management skills and how you understand to relate. But here is also a lot of empathy and charisma. You see the people around you and you understand how you need to communicate with those specific representatives of the different groups that you need to manage.
Well, that's very challenging, and you were basically jack of all trades, yeah. Like communicating with so many people, like I can only imagine how challenging it could be. And everybody has, their own demands, their own challenges. Well, I was wondering, talking about your leadership style, do you think it has changed back when you were working in cultural management directly and now that you're working primarily in academia?
Yeah, it has changed, also with the age. So getting older, it means that, we develop a specific type of maturity. It is expected from our side. Initially, it was reactive and intuitive. So even when I have started to work in management without having the theoretical framework, I was using a lot my intuition and reacting to different situations. And accordingly, I was trying to fix those problems. Nowadays, because I have also decided to embrace academia and to start teaching, it has become more reflective and strategic, which is something that I totally like. So I can think about the framework. I have a different mindset in understanding the problem, and I don't see like the small problem, but I see the big picture, and then I understand the place of that problem within that general framework, general perspective that I need to consider. Yes, it comes with the age, but it also comes with learning a lot, experience. And I say that that is important. I would have loved to know all these aspects much sooner, because I have also lost a lot of years understanding what I wanted to do, the direction I should embrace, what are the possibilities, the perspectives, what should be best for myself. And then now I have, just opened my eyes, not straight ahead, but a couple of years ago, and I said, okay, no, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I want to do. And even if I have used a lot my intuition in the past, and that was a good thing, I also need to be to reflect a little bit more on specific aspects, as well as to be able to create a strategy.
Do you have some book recommendations that one could use to delve into these topics of like leadership, strategic thinking, critical thinking, something that you would recommend?
Well, yes. Speaking about creativity, and this is an older book. There are the books of Edward de Bono. He has started to speak about lateral thinking, creativity since the 70s. He has also developed a framework called Six Thinking Hats that helps quite a lot to, somehow to narrow the problem and thinking the problem from different points of view. And then there is another book, a bestseller, that is Thinking Fast and Slow. It's an important book by Daniel Kahneman. I have had the possibility to read a couple of years ago, and this somehow comes in line with the challenges and development of the world and as well as of the digital technology. So we are actually thinking very fast nowadays, but we should also take the possibility to analyze and to think in depth on specific aspects. So this is what this book teaches us about, what type of thinking we should approach and when. And then, of course, in terms of strategy and management, there are many books that we can think about it. There are, for example, Eric Rice, and this is about entrepreneurship, but also teaches a lot on strategy and business strategy and how you need to think about it since you have an idea and you define that idea and then you implement it. And it's all about, the different phases within that. So this is, the Lean Startup. Also many other books. And in terms of, examples, there are also books focusing on examples on case studies in relation to different cultural projects and the impact those projects have had. There is a book called Pretext, published by Harvard University Press, that also brings quite a lot of examples and analyzes different aspects within the cultural sector.
Thank you for recommendations. I only knew about the Lean Startup book. It comes up in every article about entrepreneurship and business. And the other ones, I will definitely check them out. And I hope our listeners will also appreciate your recommendations. And my last question would be, when you look at the future, what makes you most excited about cultural leadership and the role education can play in shaping it?
Well, I would say that the shift towards purpose-driven, inclusive leadership, because we as cultural leaders are not expected to be only creative and strategic, but in the future we need to focus on the society and impact we can have at the level of the different communities. So being socially conscious and as well globally aware. So there is even, a so-called saying, we need to think global but act local. So that somehow sums up this perspective. We need to develop a lot of skills, but in the same time, we also need to consider the impact of our work at different levels, because in the end we are addressing emotions, human emotions, no, and we are addressing different categories of public that are part of our society. So we should be aware of the role that we are playing, not only for the professionals within this specific sector, artists, but as well as for the general public and the society in general. Then another important aspect that I'm very much looking forward to that, and I see that is developing very fast, is education, that plays an transformative role and an essential role in cultural management, because it helps us to understand, for example, the power culture has to heal, to connect, and also to inspire. An important perspectives that we shouldn't lose of sight. So why do you want to become a cultural manager? And this is an important question that every professional should ask himself, herself, before deciding to work and to embrace this sector. Is not at all an easy aspect. And then something else that comes from the interdisciplinary learning. And this is also required whenever we have to implement projects. We have somehow to connect the different disciplines. And this is something, let's say, important as well, must be understood as such. Even if we don't perfectly master all the sectors that are required to be part of a project, however, we must be able to understand overall what this is about. So this also comes to education. No? We know what is being expected from a proper marketing strategy. We know what is the purpose of a marketing strategy. So when someone, a marketing professional, comes to us with a proposal, we know why we need to choose something with respect to another one, because that somehow reflects our strategy, our mission and vision, and maybe even the way we have imagined the brand associated to our project or our organization.
Wow, Alexandra, that has been such a pleasure to talking to you. And thank you very much for your time and for sharing your inspiring journey of leadership lifelong curiosity and learning.
Thank you so much, Alma, for the invitation. It has been a delight to talk to you this morning and to have this reflection upon the cultural sector, the strengths and weaknesses, the challenges, and also, asking me to think back to the moment when I started my career. It has been quite an interesting reflection and, to analyze these perspectives.
I wish you every success in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alma. Thank you.
You have listened to The Art She Manages. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show and leave a positive review on whichever platform you're listening. It really helps more people discover these stories. Feel free to share the episode with someone you think would be inspired by it. Until next time!